The first book, Brother Wulf, is set firmly in the world of the spook. A young monk called Wulf goes for help to Chippenden and eventually gets the aid of Tom Ward and Alice to fight a dangerous enemy from the dark. In the second book, Wulf's Bane, Wulf begins as a spook's apprentice, but he gradually learns the truth about himself. He has powers in advance of those gifted to a seventh son of a seventh son. Those powers will help him to fight the dark, but they're also a threat to his own life. If he does not learn to control them properly, he will be destroyed. We are seeing the birth of a fantasy superhero. In the third book, as yet he's not got a title, we see Wulf in action against the most formidable enemy that has ever come out of the dark. The Fiend was destroyed in the Spook's revenge, but now he's back, and the county is ravaged by dark entities so terrible that even Inquisitors, with their bands of armed followers, dare not venture out. There is a new type of hunter of the dark, and his name is Wulf. The Wulf books begin in the Spook's world, but a Spook does not use magic. He uses a rowan staff, salt and iron, and a silver chain. It's a craft, it's a trade. They fight ghosts, witches, boggarts, even the devil himself. But Wulf is not a seventh son of a seventh son. He starts off as a Spook's apprentice, but he's something far different. What Wulf can do is create what are called thought forms, called tulpas. And I think the idea comes originally from Tibet. But what writers do, you take an existing idea and you tweak it, you change it, and I've changed the idea of tulpas. It's a little bit like invisible friends, except as you develop your tulpa, it no longer is invisible. You can touch it, it's solid, it can move, you can talk to it. It can also hurt you. Because there's a critical stage of training when someone who creates tulpas can make a serious mistake. And if they make that mistake, they are in danger of their lives from something that they created. And that's what Wulf faces in the second book, Wulf's Bane. The enemy that Wulf, Tom Ward and Alice face in both books is the goddess Circe. And I'm going to read you an extract, the start of a confrontation between Wulf and Circe. I remembered what Alice had once said to me. I've been telling her about how the previous time I'd sat at the table with Circe, she'd offered me food. It was meat and a thick brown gravy, and I hadn't liked the look of it. I suspected that it was the cooked flesh and blood of Circe's victims. She was a cannibal, and so were her servants. Cooking the meat was her concession to me. She liked it raw. There had been a crypt in that underworld where bones were stored. Some had been stained with blood, and a lot of it had been wet and fresh. Alice warned me that if anyone ever sits at Circe's table for a second time, then they become her victim. I would just be another item on the menu. Circe was staring at me. I did not want to meet her eyes. I sensed her power. Grimalkin once warned me that Circe will be able to bend me to her will. But, still carefully avoiding those cruel eyes, my gaze swept over her. She wore a purple dress of fine silk that came below her shoulders and also revealed her bare arms. Her skin was very pale, having never been touched by the light of the sun. I shuddered at what I had noticed previously, and I had hoped never to witness again. Living things seemed to be moving beneath it, like worms slithering within her flesh, and weevils whipped with life scurrying hither and thither. It nauseated me, even as my eyes were drawn to her bright red hair. It confirmed another strange thing that I'd seen before. It was far from a natural colour. The red radiance was caused by the tiny red mites moving within it, minuscule specks of life ascending and descending each strand of hair. She was a willing host to many entities. Wulf can change his shape because of the tulpas that he inhabits. One of them is called the Sky Wolf, and in that form he is pursued by Cersei's servants. My first instinct was to fly faster and leave them behind. Above all, they must not be allowed to discover where my underworld was located, even if they were not powerful enough to enter my domain. Once they knew its location, then I would never be safe. Cersei's servants would always be waiting to pounce whenever we emerged. I glanced backwards for the second time. They were now much closer. They looked very large too, especially because I was small. I increased my size significantly, and I unsheathed my talons. I should have been afraid. Yes, I was nervous, but I was also excited by the prospect of fighting Cersei's servants. Inside this tulpa, my mental state was far different than it was within my frail human body. I was still Wulf, but I was also something else, something wild and dangerous that would like to take risks and welcome the chance of hunting and combat. I turned sharply. Within seconds, I was flying directly towards them on a collision course, ready to attack. Now, for the first time, I was able to see them clearly. They were reptilian, with green scaled bodies and wings and snake-like heads and long tails. They resembled the dragons that I'd once seen in an illustrated bestiary of fabled monsters, which had been brought to the abbey to be copied by the monks in the scriptorium. One of the novitiates turned out to be a talented artist who produced drawings in vivid colour that were even better than the originals. I was flying directly towards them, and dragons were supposed to be able to breathe fire from their mouths and nostrils. Would they burn me to ashes before I could rend them with my talons? Was Cersei capable of giving them such a devastating offensive ability? Her magic was certainly very powerful. I remember how she created a trio of cat beasts, transforming them from 3 human kings into savage, fanged killers. Despite the reckless nature of my winged tulpa, the more cautious human aspect of me prevailed. So before I came within range of their fang jaws, just in case they could breathe fire, I swerved beneath the trio of dragon creatures and dived at speed towards the trees below. It was a huge wood, and I'd already thought of a way of using it to kill or incapacitate one of my enemies. As I levelled out, flying no more than 12 feet above the ground, they pursued me at speed, in single file, one after the other. There was a grassy track through the wood, a passage that curved left. From above, I'd already noticed that it gradually narrowed, the trees closing in on either side. While maintaining my speed, I slowly reduced my size to adjust for that change. The 3 dragon beasts were not tulpas, and wouldn't have that ability. They were larger than I was when I entered the forest, and I was relying on the fact that the other 2 would just follow their leader. They would be concentrating hard on catching me and would not notice until it was too late. I was right. There was a crack, like a branch snapping, then a shrill scream behind me, followed by a heavy thud. I slowed. I lighted on the ground and turned to face my enemies, just as I'd hoped. The first of my pursuers had hit a tree trunk with its wing and had been brought crashing to earth. The 2 creatures behind, shrieking in alarm, soared upwards beyond the tree canopy to avoid a similar fate. The evil winged beast on the ground was hurt badly, and lying on its right side, half of its wing hanging as low as its head, the bone clearly broken. Taking advantage of its plight, I attacked, ripping out its throat as I passed and ensuring my safety. Then I soared upwards, my wings beating fast, taking advantage of a convenient current of brown thermal air as I rapidly gained height. Soon I was far above the 2 remaining dragon creatures. They were giving mournful cries and circling the trees, directly above the place where the companion now lay dying, its red blood soaking into the ground. I stooped like a hawk towards its prey. I chose my target, folding my wings, and dropped like a stone. My second kill proved just as easy as the first. I soared upwards. Once more, as gushing blood, the dying dragon creature plunged towards the trees far below. Elated by my 2 victories, talons extended for the 3rd kill, I flew straight at my final enemy. I felt full of confidence. I expected to prevail. I was filled with pride in what I had achieved. I thought I was lord of the sky. I believed that I ruled all that I could see. What a vain fool I had become. So stupid, so arrogant, so deluded. As a novitiate monk, I'd been taught all about sin and how it could destroy the soul and deserve the fires of hell. There were 7 major sins, amongst them anger, greed, and envy. But the deadliest of all was pride. Lucifer had been a bright, shining angel, but the sin of pride had brought him tumbling down into hell. It was the same for me. I did not fall into hell, but I misjudged the distance to my target, because that target had already moved. I had underestimated the creature's ability, and it skillfully avoided my talons. Mine missed, but my enemy's talons did not.
Hello everyone, my name's Tony Higginson and I'm a bookseller. I'm going to be asking Joseph Delaney some questions. And don't forget, if you've not read Brother Wulf, the first book, pop onto my website, Beyond Books, place your order and we'll get it shipped to you. And most importantly, Joseph will sign it for you. So if you've got any special requests for, dedications, if it's for a special occasion or anything like that, please let us know. Just a question that's been puzzling me a little bit, really. Is Wulf more than another seventh son of a seventh son? Is there something more about him? I mean, he certainly doesn't seem to be an ordinary apprentice. So perhaps you could tell me and anyone else a little bit more about him.
Hi, Tony. That's a good question, which takes us right to the heart of Wulf's Bane. I mean, it is set within the Spooks world, and technically, when the book begins, Wulf is an apprentice. He is a Spooks apprentice, but he has other abilities. What Wulf can do is create something within his imagination, a creature, for example, and this can take form in the real world. And not only that, he can then, if he wishes, inhabit that creature. He can become it temporarily. So you can see that's very useful. It can be when you're facing dangers from the dark, but it also holds a threat to the one who creates the creatures in the first place. So Wulf is in danger from what he has created.
Joseph, I really feel I want to know this, actually. Tom and Alice, Spook Johnson even, and certainly my favourite, Gravelkin, do any of them appear in Wulf's Bane?
Yes. Tom Ward, Alice, and Spook Johnson all are in Wulf's Bane. And Grimalkin's in as well, but this time, Grimalkin, the witch assassin, plays a much more significant part.
A bit of a loaded question, really, but I hope you don't mind. Will Bane be the final Brother Wulf book?
Well, I can guarantee that Wulf's Bane will not be the final story in the series. Why? Because I've already more or less written the third one. I'm within 1,000 or so words at the end, and then I start to polish it. But the story that begins in Brother Wulf, to a certain extent, ends with Wulf's Bane. That's like one complete story. But there's more to come, as you can see by the end of the book. And there is a third book. And I've enjoyed writing it. So hopefully that will be published next year about the same time. Thank you.